Alaska is one of the most remote and unforgiving places on Earth, but some of its mysteries were never meant to be found. From disappearances with no bodies to discoveries that raise more questions than answers, these are 6 Alaska mysteries that still defy explanation. And if you enjoy real, chilling stories like this, consider subscribing. These videos take a lot of time to research, and your support helps keep them coming. The Alaska Triangle. There is a vast region of Alaska where people don't just get lost. They vanish. It's known as the Alaska Triangle, an enormous stretch of wilderness roughly forming a triangle between Anchorage, Juneau, and Utqiagvik. On the surface, it looks like untouched wilderness. But beneath that silence is a disturbing pattern that has haunted Alaska for decades. Since the early 1900s, more than 20,000 people are believed to have disappeared within this region. Hunters, pilots, hikers, entire flight crews, many of them experienced and well-prepared, simply never came back. In some cases, they were last heard from just minutes before vanishing. No mayday call, no wreckage, no bodies. One of the most chilling cases occurred in 1972, when U.S. Congressman Hale Boggs boarded a small aircraft traveling from Anchorage to Juneau. The plane never arrived. Despite a massive search involving military aircraft, satellites, and thousands of personnel, nothing was ever found. No debris, no trace. The disappearance of a high-ranking government official only deepened the mystery and raised questions that were never fully answered. Many pilots have reported strange behavior from their instruments while flying over the triangle. Compasses spin uncontrollably. GPS systems suddenly fail. Some describe an unnatural silence, as if sound itself disappears. Others speak of thick fog rolling in without warning, swallowing planes and cutting off all visibility in seconds. Skeptics argue that Alaska's extreme weather and terrain are enough to explain the disappearances. The region is filled with glaciers, jagged mountains, and dense forests capable of hiding wreckage for centuries. But even seasoned search and rescue teams admit that the complete absence of evidence in many cases is difficult to explain. Then there are the stories locals rarely talk about. Indigenous legends speak of spirits that guard the land and punish those who disrespect it. Elders describe places where people are warned not to travel alone, especially after dark. Some hunters claim to have followed footprints in the snow that simply stop. Over the years, theories have ranged from magnetic anomalies to secret military testing, underground bases, and even portals. None have been proven, and yet the disappearances continue. What makes the Alaska Triangle so unsettling isn't just how many people have vanished. It's how thoroughly they're erased. No answers, no closure, just an endless wilderness that keeps its secrets buried deep beneath the ice. And for those who venture too far into it, Alaska doesn't always give them back. The Lake Anjukuni village. Sometime in the early 1930s, deep within the frozen wilderness of northern Canada near Alaska's border, a trapper named Joe LaBelle reportedly arrived at a small Inuit settlement near Lake Anjukuni and found something deeply wrong. The village, which should have been alive with people, was completely silent. According to LaBelle's account, every resident had vanished. Homes were still standing. Cooking fires had been left unattended. Meals appeared unfinished, as if people had simply stood up and walked away mid-action. Rifles and personal belongings, items essential for survival in such a brutal environment, were left behind. Even the sled dogs, crucial to Arctic life, were reportedly found dead of starvation, still tied up. Terrified, LaBelle contacted authorities. When investigators arrived, what they found only deepened the mystery. Graves in the nearby cemetery appeared disturbed, with bodies missing from their resting places. No signs of struggle were found. No tracks leading away from the village. In a region where footprints can last for weeks, the absence of any trail was unsettling. News of the discovery spread quickly, and the story took on a life of its own. Some reports claimed nearby hunters witnessed strange lights in the sky around the time of the disappearance. Others said the local Inuit spoke of a presence they called the one who takes people. Elders allegedly warned against speaking openly about it, believing doing so could invite misfortune. But as the years passed, doubts began to surface. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police later stated that no official records confirmed the existence of a mass disappearance at Lake Anjukuni. Some historians suggested the village was much smaller than originally reported, or that it never existed at all in the way the story described. Others believe the incident was exaggerated by newspapers hungry for sensational headlines during a time when the Arctic was still largely unknown to the public. Yet, despite the skepticism, the story refuses to die. Locals insist something happened. Oral histories describe sudden evacuations caused by famine, disease, or fear. Others believe the villagers may have relocated quietly, leaving behind a scene that outsiders misunderstood. But even those explanations fail to account for the most disturbing details: the abandoned food, the missing graves, and the silence that seemed to swallow the entire settlement overnight. Whether Lake Anjukuni was a tragic misunderstanding, an exaggerated legend, or something far darker, one thing remains certain: no definitive explanation has ever been accepted. And in the frozen north, where secrets are preserved beneath ice and snow, some believe the truth of Lake Anjukuni was never meant to be uncovered at all. The Lost Douglas DC-4, 1950. On January 26, 1950, a U.S. Air Force Douglas DC-4 transport plane took off from Anchorage, Alaska, bound for Great Falls, Montana. On board were 44 people, including military personnel and crew. The flight was routine. The weather was cold but manageable. Nothing about that day suggested anything would go wrong. Then, without warning, the plane disappeared. There was no distress call, no emergency transmission, no final message of any kind. One moment the aircraft was moving across radar, and the next it was simply gone. What followed was one of the largest search operations in Alaskan history. Military planes, civilian aircraft, and ground crews scoured more than 325,000 square miles of brutal terrain. Mountains, glaciers, forests, and frozen rivers were searched repeatedly. Weeks turned into months. Months turned into years. Nothing was ever found. No wreckage, no bodies, not even a single piece of debris. This was deeply unsettling, especially given the size of the aircraft. A DC-4 crash should have left a visible trail: twisted metal, fuel stains, something. Yet Alaska offered nothing. The official explanation was that the plane likely went down in extremely rugged terrain, where wreckage could remain hidden indefinitely. But critics weren't convinced. Search teams pointed out that other crashes in even harsher areas had eventually been discovered. Some suggested the aircraft may have experienced a sudden, catastrophic failure that left no time for a mayday call. Others believed weather played a role, though reports from nearby flights didn't indicate anything severe enough to cause a total disappearance. Over time, darker theories began to surface. Some speculated about secret military cargo. Others wondered if the plane strayed into restricted airspace or encountered something never officially acknowledged. The lack of transparency only fueled suspicion. Decades later, with advances in satellite imaging and mapping technology, renewed interest in the case led to additional searches. Once again, nothing was found. Today, the lost DC-4 remains one of Alaska's most haunting aviation mysteries. 44 people boarded that plane, expecting to arrive home safely. Instead, they vanished without a trace, absorbed by a landscape so vast and unforgiving that even the evidence of their final moments may be lost forever. And somewhere beneath Alaska's ice and stone, the answers may still be waiting unseen. The disappearance of the Carluk survivors. In 1913, the Arctic exploration ship Carluk became trapped in thick sea ice off the coast of Alaska. For months, the crew drifted helplessly as the ice slowly crushed the ship's hull. Eventually, the Carluk sank, forcing its crew to flee across the frozen ocean on foot in a desperate attempt to survive. Several members managed to reach Wrangel Island, where some were later rescued. But not everyone made it. A small group of survivors attempted to cross the ice in search of help. They were experienced sailors, familiar with Arctic conditions, and carried supplies meant to last weeks. Yet somewhere along that frozen expanse, they disappeared completely. No bodies were ever found. No equipment. No signs that they had even been there. Search efforts were limited by brutal weather and shifting ice, but even years later, nothing surfaced. The Arctic preserved other wrecks and remains from that era, yet the Carluk survivors seem to vanish as if swallowed by the ice itself. Some historians believe they fell through thin ice and were pulled beneath freezing waters in seconds. Others suggest they may have been overtaken by storms so violent they erased all traces. But there are also whispers of something more unsettling. Stories of voices carried across the ice, or tracks leading toward open water that suddenly ended. What makes the disappearance so disturbing is not just that they died, but that no evidence of their final moments exists at all. In a place where even bones can survive for centuries, the silence left behind feels unnatural. More than a century later, the fate of the missing Carluk survivors remains one of Alaska's coldest unanswered mysteries. A reminder that in the Arctic, even survival can leave no trace. The vanishing of Mount Hayes encounters. Mount Hayes rises quietly within the Alaska Triangle, towering over the wilderness with little attention from outsiders. But for decades, those who live or travel nearby have reported things they struggle to explain, and many refuse to talk about it all. Pilots flying over Mount Hayes have described strange lights appearing suddenly in the sky, moving in ways no conventional aircraft should be able to. Some reported their instruments malfunctioning at the exact moment the lights appeared, with radios cutting out and compasses spinning erratically. In several cases, the lights vanished as abruptly as they appeared. Hikers and climbers have also gone missing near the mountain. Some were experienced outdoorsmen familiar with Alaska's dangers. Search teams occasionally found campsites left behind, tents still standing, gear untouched, but no sign of the people who had been there. No tracks leading away, no evidence of an accident. Locals have long whispered that Mount Hayes is a place people are warned to avoid, especially at night. Indigenous stories speak of powerful forces tied to the land. Not monsters, but presences that don't tolerate intrusion. Whether symbolic or literal, the warnings have endured for generations. Theories range from secret military testing to rare atmospheric phenomena caused by the mountain's unique geography. Others believe the area may contain unexplained magnetic activity capable of interfering with electronics and navigation. But none of these explanations account for everything, especially the disappearances that leave no physical trace. What makes Mount Hayes unsettling isn't just the sightings or the missing people. It's the consistency of the stories, told quietly, across decades, and the sense that whatever is happening there doesn't want to be seen or found. The mystery of the lost gold mines of Alaska. Alaska is famous for its gold rush, but beyond the bustling towns and well-known mining sites lies a deeper, darker mystery. The story of gold mines that have vanished entirely, leaving nothing behind but whispers, abandoned tools, and snow-covered ruins. These lost mines have haunted prospectors and explorers for over a century, a testament to Alaska's unforgiving wilderness and the allure of untold wealth. One of the most famous cases is the Julin Creek mine. In the late 1800s, early miners reported striking a rich vein of gold, enough to promise a life-changing fortune. They described glimmering nuggets and tunnels deep in hidden valleys, accessible only by treacherous passes and icy rivers. But when subsequent teams tried to locate the mine, they found nothing. No tunnels, no equipment, no trace of human presence. Journals and maps from the period were vague, often conflicting, and over time, rivers shifted, forests reclaimed paths, and snow buried evidence of the mine entirely. Another legendary site is the Lost Solomon Mine, supposedly one of the richest veins of gold ever discovered. Prospectors wrote of hidden valleys with sheer cliffs and icy rivers guarding the entrances. Some who claimed to find it disappeared, never returning to confirm their discovery. Locals whispered that the land itself seemed to resist discovery, swallowing tracks and erasing signs of human presence. Even today, hikers report coming across half-buried mining tools, rusting shacks, and empty cabins in remote mountain valleys. Hints that someone, long ago, tried to claim the gold, only to vanish without a trace. The mystery is as compelling as it is frustrating because Alaska offers abundant visual material. Snow-covered mountains, rushing icy rivers, abandoned cabins, rusted tools, and dense forests provide striking imagery for video. Maps of gold rush regions can be animated to highlight lost locations, while archival photographs of miners and historic towns add historical depth. Dramatic shots of shifting rivers and treacherous cliffs underscore the danger and unpredictability of the landscape, making viewers feel the isolation and risk these miners faced. To this day, no one knows for certain what happened to these mines. Were they swallowed by avalanches, floods, or the relentless advance of the wilderness? Did early miners vanish under mysterious circumstances? Or do the mines still exist, hidden somewhere, waiting to be rediscovered? The allure of Alaska's lost gold mines is timeless. They are a story of ambition, danger, and the unpredictable power of nature. A reminder that in Alaska, wealth can be found, but sometimes it disappears just as completely as those who seek it. For explorers, historians, and adventurers alike, the lost gold mines remain one of the state's most enduring and visually captivating mysteries. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel and allows us to keep digging up more incredible, chilling mysteries from across the US.